Welcome back to the Sparky Coach podcast. Cam here, Crowie next to me,
Yeah, yeah.
also known as the Outro Lord. Uh,
Also known as vanilla slices, mate.
Sensing a theme here that Crowie just
Yeah.
can't let go of, but that's cool because that's the nice little segue into maybe around letting go of an insecurity that you may have. I want to have a chat today around, I guess, a scarcity mindset or a lack mindset or and flipping that around to I guess wanting to have an abundance mentality around things. But what I really want to focus on is a scarcity or lack mindset or thought process that you may have. I know I really like talking about this because I'm just a really big believer and really passionate about the rising tide lifts all ships up, and sharing knowledge is the key to, I guess, getting anything in life or any industry that you work in or any sector that you're involved in better.
Yeah, so I remember when I got a text message from a competitor who I was a bit sort of, I guess in front of is a correct way to say it, just staff wise and maybe business wise and business acumen at that point. And he said, "How much do you price for a data point?" And I was like, "Get stuffed." Do you know how many mistakes I've made to pay for that? I didn't write back. And I found out he texted like 4 or 5 people and no one wrote back. And that was the culture, 15 years ago, that you really protect your intellectual property. And like, I learned this the hard way, and don't come to me asking for that. You need to learn the hard way. And I think that real closed-mindedness of if they know my prices, then they might take my client, and that real insecure sort of stuff. And we've got a full throttle, no questions asked, no dickhead policy in our program, and you can ask any question you want in our work chat, whether it's about business or what do I do in this situation? How do I apply for this? So what's 101 mundane? I mean, everything's easy to someone, and so it's just a matter of like responding. Everyone's responding with kindness in that situation. But so I think that the tide is changing, but you still see a lot of people out there focusing on their competitors or talking about how good someone's doing, or focusing on what someone else is doing right, and what if they take this, what if they take that, because you're scared about there's not enough sort of work out there. And a big thing for me, like growing my business, and I remember I had like 2 or 3 staff, and I bumped into the guy that was above, like further ahead than me, and my mate used to work for him, and I bumped into them outside sort of my favorite cafe back where I grew up, and I was talking to them. And he's like, "Oh, how are you?" And I was like, "Just going home to do invoicing, the never-ending invoicing." Like, I was just really insecure at that point. And I remember him just like going, "Yeah, man, awesome. Like, cool, dude." Kind of like, just what the hell is... Yeah. Like, yeah, heaps of admin when you got 2 staff members, but you can really feel overwhelmed in that thing. And this guy was like, if I was driving to the wholesaler, he was 10 minutes ahead of me. Like, he had more hair than me. He had a better house than me. He had a better body than me. He drove like a high ace. I drove an I-load. Like, just one of those things. He had better work than us. He had better staff than us. And it's one of those things that I got swept up in for a time, going like, oh, I was really insecure, and looking at him and coming to grow the business. And I think it might be that classic Australian tall poppy syndrome, like pull others down. Or I heard this about that person, I heard there's crap on his lawn too, like that kind of stuff. I heard his dog does booze, like, just that looking for that dirt. And it was like talking about pill again.
Yeah, we're going down that route.
But yeah, and it was interesting because, as my business grew as well, I was like, oh, and just had to let that go. Just go, he's got his clients. I don't need to look for his clients. He's got his clients. I don't need to worry about what someone else is doing. There's so much work out there. There's so much staff out there. I've got to put my Craig David, my flavor, on my business, and focus on myself, and focus on the positives, and focus on the future, and focus on what I can do in business, rather than look at someone else and be like, oh, no, I don't want them to have my secret sauce, So, yeah, I guess my reflection looking back is I wish I'd let go of that sooner. And a part of me was probably really insecure,
Yep.
You know, that maybe my business wasn't as big as yours, like mine's bigger than yours kind of thing. And like that kind of real insecure person coming through the ranks, not knowing my place, or just not confident. And I think encouraging to every business owner, there's so much out there, and you have something special inside you, and you've got something that no one else has. And if you can just apply that to your business and focus on what you can do excellently and focus up on your clients, you'll find success. And
yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the key to that is everyone will connect with their potential clients or their clients differently to how others will. So life is full of relationships. So therefore business is full of relationships. So it's how you build those relationships and how you manage those relationships will sort of not dictate, but it has a determination or sort of like a pathway. So it's just naturally that you don't like everyone in the room. So or like if there's 100 people there, you're not going to get on with everyone. But that's not to say that other people won't get on with other people in the room who fill the needs that they're after. And you may be having the same need. In this case, you're a Sparky, and they fill the need for others, and you fill the need for others. And the thing with that is that generally speaking, if you don't really connect with that particular person anyway, what's making you think that you're going to connect with their clients also? Because you're probably on different wavelengths. Um, I remember very early on looking back on this. I sort of for a real short period of time, I did sort of get swept up in things around focusing on the competitors, or I don't really look at them as competitors. I just look at them as other Sparkies in the area, who are just going about their day doing their best that they can as well. I remember I got caught up in a little bit, and you definitely sort of go down the path of comparing, or like they're doing this and they're doing that, and then you find out that they've been around for 65 years, and you're like, well, that makes sense.
or you see their site sign on that job, like, how did that person get in?
Yeah,
and
100%. And but the thing is you don't ever know what they're going through either. So like a classic story, I've had a chat to a number of people about that. Like you see the sign of the company on that particular site, you're like, oh my God, how do they get in with them? Look at them. And then a year later or 2 years later, you somehow meet them, or you're having a chat to them, or through the grapevine, you hear that that particular client was a complete jerk, or they didn't get paid for that. So your moment at the beginning of comparison or sort of jealousy in the end turned out to be totally incorrect, because it was actually they're going through a shit time now because they haven't been paid for that job.
or they were
particular.
charging some ungodly hourly rate that you could never have competed with anyway.
100%.
And
so
and or you find out that their brother-in-law is the project manager, and everything's sweet, and you got no chance at all of getting in there because
it's relationship.
They've gotten in, and the world is about relationships. So
and so I've talked about it before on other pods, and shout out to Ange again, my mother-in-law.
Ange.
Yeah, Ange.
Spoke to Ange last night, actually. No, I didn't really.
She's blocked.
She listens to this too, doesn't she?
She does, yeah.
Yeah,
she loves a shout out.
Yeah.
She comments on our posts and everything like that.
Yeah.
We love her. So comparison is the thief of joy. That's one thing that she has always sort of said and always banged on about it. And it's so true. I probably can't emphasize it enough that you should just be watering your own grass, because the reason the dude next door's got really green grass is because he waters it and he fertilizes it and he looks after it. So if you spend the time looking after, nurturing and focusing and putting the energy and time into your own business, as opposed to putting the time and energy worrying about others, and looking at it from a point of view is how can we work together in the same area, as opposed to how can we work against each other. Just those little tweaks in the mindset will immediately change the outcomes.
Yeah, so this is interesting because I remember getting a whole bunch of work, and there was an up-and-coming guy who actually he did a couple of subby days for me, but then had some, I quote, bad Chinese food and didn't come in. So it was like, I mean, who's ever had bad Chinese food, right? Unbelievable.
How good would Chinese be right now? Oh,
Yeah.
wait, there isn't Chinese here.
Yeah, we can drive 45 minutes north and get some good Chinese. Anyway, so I remember he came up and he was a up and coming and he got a couple of jobs and he quoted something for our builder at the time and he was 20, get this, he was 20 grand and I was 40 grand. So half the price.
Yeah.
So this builder is a questionable character, sort of called me and had a bit of a go. And I was looking at it and once again, insecurity came into play. I was like,
I'll do it for 19.
Maybe I'll do it for 20. I'll do it for 19 and a half with my pants off. Whatever I'm going to do. But a part of you does feel like that. I built this quote checker that our members have access to. It's the freaking best thing you've ever seen. It really helps you confidently quote things properly. Anyway, I remember that guy came up. He did a job for 20 grand. And I was fortunate enough to have had some of the jobs on Cost Plus beforehand, before we started quoting. So I knew that they were between sort of 34 and 39. And that's just where everyone landed. So I'm like, there's no way he could physically do it for that. Anyway, he kind of was calling everyone and he took a whole bunch of people's work and he was causing a bit of a stir in the small town that I grew up in. And anyway, long story short, business fell over. I mean, I shouldn't laugh about that, but he was not a great character. Tires slashed on the street, 4 tires slashed, and then kind of owed a whole bunch of people money and went down in a blaze of glory. Is that Bon Jovi? I think it is. Yeah, it is Bon Jovi.
Blades of Glory with
Blades of Glory. That's a great movie. It's cold as ice. Anyway, not laughing about that, but just kind of laughing at myself in the situation, being so insecure. How come someone can be cheaper than me? I'm the cheapest guy there ever was. And he's coming through the ranks and his business falls over. So I think what would your area look like if every single Sparky or tradie was educated in what to charge? It would look a lot healthier.
Yeah.
The undercutting would be not a thing because everyone would be charging a similar amount. Rising tide lifts all ships. If everyone understands what their business actually costs them to run, if everyone is looking for the same sort of net profit, that actually benefits everyone. Because we're all charging similar rates, we're all making good money, and that as it should be. That's exactly how it should be. So don't ever be insecure about your competitor coming up through the ranks. Let's champion each other. Small business is hard. Small business is not easy, but if we can all help each other, we can, achieve some good things.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. I think that's beautifully outroed, nearly. But got one more thing to say on this. It really is around what I sort of touched on before, and it's focusing on yourself. There is enough work out there for everyone. There is enough clients. There is enough good people who are willing to work with you and partner with you, and don't get caught up in the social media world, all the bright lights of marketing, all the comparison of they've got 4 vans when you've been going for 3 months, because there's always a story, there's always a background story, and there's always a why around pretty much most things that occur. So comparing yourself as a startup to a company that's been established for 20 years is just a ridiculous notion that's not even comparable in any sense, because of course they're going to have more clients. Of course they're going to have more assets and vehicles and things like that, because that's what happens with time, and that's the beauty of time. So focus on yourself, focus on what you can control, and I can guarantee by doing those couple little things, your grass will begin to grow and be a lot greener.
Nice. Water your grass, guys. Look after yourselves. See you soon.